Hey everyone, and welcome back to your fourth stimulus check and news update. In today's video, we'll be touching base on both the bipartisan infrastructure bill and the partisan human infrastructure bill. We'll also be discussing the $15 billion the IRS sent out to numerous people last Friday and why you may be getting a paper check in the mail soon. Additionally, we'll talk about the possibilities of Americans receiving a fourth stimulus check by year's end. Moreover, we'll discuss plans by the Biden administration to make a record increase to food stamp benefits. And finally, we'll also be going over some other news topics. But first, before I get into today's video, if you would like to receive a couple of free stocks from Webull, valued up to $2,300, make sure to claim them by clicking my link in the description box below. Okay, so starting off today's video, following the moderate Democrats' strong message to Pelosi last week telling her that, hey, if we don't pass this bipartisan infrastructure bill right away, we'll make sure the other bill based around human infrastructure doesn't stand a chance at passing either. Well, obviously, this came off as quite alarming to House Speaker Pelosi. So in return, Pelosi, in a fit of anger, and as recommended by her psychiatrist, wrote up dozens of hate mail messages to her Democratic colleagues. Before the letters were able to be properly shedded, an anonymous tipster was able to release the letters. After Pelosi was able to calm down and realize that other members of Congress may not think exactly as her, she released a better suited Dear Colleagues letter. In the letter, and as shown up on the screen, she states, "Our goal is to pass the budget resolution the week of August 23rd so that we may pass Democrats' Build Back Better agenda via reconciliation as soon as possible. To that end, I have requested that the Rules Committee explore the possibility of a rule that advances both the budget resolution and the bipartisan infrastructure package. This will put us on a path to advance the infrastructure bill and the reconciliation bill." Basically, Pelosi is not backing down, and she's still asking the Rules Committee to draft a resolution that would bring the two bills together. In other words, the two bills would be merged together in a way that members of Congress would have to vote to allow both of them on the floor. In response to this letter, the moderate Democrats are, for now at least, deciding to stand up to Pelosi, and they said, "While we appreciate the forward procedural movement on the bipartisan infrastructure agreement, our view remains consistent. We should vote first on the bipartisan infrastructure framework without delay and then move to immediate consideration of the budget resolution." In short, they're telling Pelosi that they'll need to hold a vote first on the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and then later on, they can focus on the other bill based on human infrastructure. Meanwhile, Senator Ted Cruz makes his best case against any further government spending.
It's a trap!
Why is that, Senator Cruz?
It's a trap!
Why?
It's a trap!
Why is it a trap?
At a time when we spent trillions of dollars already to combat a deadly pandemic, at a time when we're seeing rising inflation across the country, we can't responsibly be spending yet another $1 trillion. Furthermore, suppose this so-called bipartisan $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill was being offered in exchange for the Democrats' massive $3.5 trillion reckless tax and spend bill. In that case, I could understand the logic of doing the smaller bill instead of the massive bill. But it's not being offered in exchange. The Democrats have made it clear that they're going to pass this infrastructure bill, take every penny of the spending, and then turn around and try to ram through their massive $3.5 trillion tax and spend bill right on top of this. Which means we're looking at about $5 trillion of spending in just those two bills. That means trillions of dollars in new taxes. If you pay taxes, they're going up. It means corporate taxes are going up. It means individual taxes are going up. It means small business taxes are going up. It means capital gains taxes are going up. It means the death tax is going up. All while our debt is going through the roof and inflation is rising across the country. These numbers all seem abstract, millions, billions, trillions. It's hard to know what you're talking about. So let's see if we can make it a little more real. Let's take a look at the average American home right here. Average American home is about 20 feet tall. Compare that to a giant sequoia tree. It's about 240 feet tall, 10 times as much. That's a lot. But compare that to Big Ben, 380 feet tall. Compare that to Trump Tower in New York City at 700 feet tall. Compare that to One Shell Plaza, where I used to work in Houston, Texas. Or compare that to the Sears Tower, now called the Willis Tower. I don't know why. I liked Sears. Compare that to the Sears Tower at 1,400 feet tall. The Sears Tower is 70 times as tall as the average American house. The Democrats' reckless spending is more than 70 times what's being spent on roads and bridges. So when you see politicians going on TV saying, isn't it going to be great to have a new freeway? Isn't it going to be great to repair a bridge? Yes, we should do that. They're selling this. That's what they're selling, this tiny little bit. But understand that what they're ramming through is this.
Okay, so obviously Senator Cruz isn't too big of a fan of all this additional spending. Already, in some other news, at some point today, the Biden administration is looking to release their plans on a huge and permanent increase to food stamp benefits. This is expected to help around 42 million Americans and will be around 27% higher than they were before the pandemic. In total, this will come out to an increase of about 40 cents per meal. Another way to think of it is right now the average monthly benefit is around $121 per person. If the Biden administration gets their way, the benefit would then increase to around $157 per person. With the 15% plus up that is set to expire on September 30th, this increase would then be starting on October 1st. As we learn more on this, I'll definitely be sure to keep you updated. Okay, moving right along to some sad and shocking news over the weekend, the Taliban has officially taken over Afghanistan. After a 20-year war with many lives lost and trillions of dollars spent, it's all pretty much amounted to nothing. And whether you praise the move with the belief that we should avoid wars at all costs and that we shouldn't be the world police, or you think it was a bad move pulling our troops out with the belief that we should keep fighting for a more stable Afghanistan, either way, this sight was a tough one to swallow. At the moment, there are around 10,000 Americans still waiting evacuation from the country, and after many women grew up in a country that actually allowed them equal rights, the freedom to go to school, and dream of a career, all those dreams in the past few days have possibly come to an end. So now, many of these women in Afghanistan have to wonder whether or not they'll be able to continue their education or even return to work. Representative Jim Jordan calls this a frightening and embarrassing situation for the United States. Take a listen.
First, give us your assessment of Afghanistan, which is falling apart this morning. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that the Taliban has now entered Kabul, home to 6 million Afghan people. Your reaction?
Well, I think the first thing is, why is Joe Biden on vacation? I don't think he's taken one question from the press this entire weekend. So this is a frightening situation. It's an embarrassing situation for the United States. But I think, frankly, it's not surprising. I mean, Maria, tell me what this administration has done right in their first 8 months on the job. We got inflation like crazy. We got a crisis on the border, which we're going to talk about. We now have this unbelievable mess in foreign policy. We have an economy that's not where it needs to be, and crime surging in every major urban area. We had 12 murders in Chicago 2 weekends ago. So tell me what they've done right. This is, as I said, it's embarrassing. It's frightening. We've never seen anything this crazy in foreign policy probably since back in Vietnam, when we had to get people out at the last minute as well. So let's hope we can protect American lives. But this would not happen. This would not happen if President Trump was in the White House. We know that. We would not be treated the way we are from our adversaries. We would not have what took place up in Anchorage, Alaska a few months ago, where Secretary Blinken was treated the way he was by his Chinese counterpart. That just would not happen when you project strength and confidence from the White House. But unfortunately, we don't have that today.
So Jim Jordan, obviously being a Republican, is being pretty hard on the Biden administration for what's going on in Afghanistan. And of course, they're going to try to milk this out as much as they possibly can. On the contrary, Democrats in the Biden administration are actually blaming former President Trump for what's going on. President Biden said that Trump empowered the Taliban and left them in the strongest position since 2001. In response, former President Trump said that Biden should resign in disgrace over the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan and therefore allowing the Taliban to grab power. Again, it was a really tough move on knowing exactly what we should do in this situation. Do we continue spending more time and more money in an attempt to stabilize the Middle East, potentially losing even more American lives, all in the name of freedom? Or do we stick to policing our own and face the issues going on in our own country? Let me know what your thoughts are on this issue in the comment section below. In some better news, last Friday, millions of American households received their second monthly payment of the child tax credit. In total, the IRS sent out around $15 billion to families, which will reach about 61 million children. If you didn't receive a direct deposit last Friday, after you received the first payment as one in July, this is why. Unfortunately, the IRS had some sort of technical issue, go figure, but they did say this problem would be resolved by the time the next batch of payments go out in September. Instead, if you didn't receive a direct deposit, you should be receiving a check in the mail at some point in the next couple of weeks. Just as a reminder, for each child you have under the age of 6, you should be receiving $300. Then, for each child you have ages 6 to 17, in that case, you'll be receiving $250. At the moment, these increased payments are only temporary unless, of course, Democrats are able to pass their bill based on human infrastructure, which will extend the enhanced credit for a limited period of time. And in case you're wondering, the $3.5 trillion bill based around human infrastructure that I'm speaking of, at this moment, still does not include a fourth stimulus check. This despite over 2.8 million Americans now signing the Change.org petition for recurring $2,000 direct payments. This petition, which was started by a restaurant owner in Denver, will be linked in the description box below. And while many Democratic members of Congress supported such payments at one point in time, much of this interest has faded, and it looks like the chances of a fourth stimulus check are getting slimmer by the day. The now Vice President, Kamala Harris, was one of the supporters, but since becoming the VP, she really hasn't been all that outspoken for one. So in the meantime, even though there hasn't been many talks about a fourth stimulus check, nor has there been one included in the bill around human infrastructure, we may still see some cities and states include a stimulus check based on their local areas. Just recently, for example, we saw the state of California giving out $600 stimulus checks to some of its residents. And of course, if anything does happen to change, I'll definitely be sure to keep you updated. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. If you did enjoy the content in today's video and feel that I deserve a like, I would greatly appreciate you doing so, and also feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. And finally, before I go, don't forget to grab your 2 free stocks from Webull, valued up to $2,300 by clicking my link in the description box below. Once you open an account with Webull, you'll receive the first free stock valued up to $300. Then, once you make a deposit of at least $5, yes, just $5, at that point, Webull will send you the second free stock, this one being valued up to $2,000. Once you receive the 2 free stocks, at that point, you can either use the $5 you deposited to invest in more stocks, or you can simply transfer that money right back into your bank account. If you'd like, you could even sell the free stocks you received for whatever amount they're worth and transfer that money right back into your bank account as well. So free stocks or free money, however you would like to think of it. And before I ramble on too much longer, I want to wish you a great day ahead, and I'll see you in the next video.